Season 7, episode 25, number 290. 290 episodes. I I'm gonna enjoy that for a moment of
You
the
savor
Decode
the
podcast. Savor it, yeah.
savor the flavor.
Savor the flavor of 290.
Hmm.
When I was creating the link for this podcast yesterday, and
Hmm.
I typed out 290, it
Did
brought
it do
me
something?
it brought me right back. I didn't do anything, but it brought me right back. It brought me right back to the conversation we had about doing this. And I remember where I was. And I don't know why. It's really cool to, in when I it's really cool when I experience this for positive things and not always negative things, remembering where I was. But I was in the dining room.
Hmm.
I was in the dining room when you and I were going back and forth about this. 290. I just think it's really neat that we've we've been able to regularly check in and talk about all kinds of stuff. And then I had the thought. So I have this thought like, wow, 290. I remember when this happened, when this started. And then I think about all the things we haven't talked about on the podcast. All the things that I think would be important for people to hear, more so for us to get out and deal with. But I think it would be important for people to hear.
I like that. I will often say, I say it to students, but I also say it to fellow creatives. Now that this exists in the world, what you gonna do? And sometimes I get blank looks. I'm like, no, like you've now done a thing, you've created a thing, you've said a poem, you've made a painting, you've made a video, you've shown up, you've shown up. So now what? Now that that's out there, and they still sometimes are like, well, I want to write another one. I'm like, okay, cool. And then sometimes it's just, well, or I want to create, I want to paint, I want to sort of make another thing. Um, Sometimes it's I need to take a break. That took a lot out of me. Whew. I need to take a break. So, for example, my good friend Franca, who I acted with in the previous play, um, and I got to act with her a year ago. So I got to act with her twice within a year, which is awesome. Like that's a real gift to be able to work with a fellow creative on a completely different project, and all you're bringing, our topic for the last few days is like just enough to say yes. They bring their skill sets with them, just enough to kind of say, sure, I'll try that. And in the two plays that we were in, we were both, despite the fact, the only common thing is that we were creatives working together again. Totally different project, and the fact we were both acting. So the creative endeavor, the product was a play, a story. We were both actors in the story. The connection, I guess, in the two stories is that we were married. So we were married again, but we got to be totally different people within that frame of a marriage. Very different people. Um, and as we came out of that play, I said to him, like, hey, yo, there's another theater. There's one more play option that, auditions are coming up for it. Do you think you're going to audition? And she flat out said, no, I need some downtime. And I get that. Creativity, there's a cost, right? You don't the creativity doesn't come from nowhere. You have to draw from somewhere. And for me, it tends to be I'm more intrinsic. So I draw from inside. It's rare that I'm tracking what's coming in and processing it out at the same time. Some people can do that. They whatever the inspiration, it's right there in front of them in real time, and boom, boom, they're creating a thing. I need a little bit of a gap there. I know when it comes to writing poetry. I mean, every week I kind of do a little scribble. That's about for the pod. That's about as close as to real time delivery that I'll do. But sometimes those pictures are like there's like, what the hell? Did I even post up last week's? I did, didn't I? I think
You
I
may
did.
have. You may have.
I think I did. But I was just looking at the picture in my journal here. That's about as close to real time. Like in synchrony, like in like synchronous creation. Most things I need away time, right? And even when you go and see a play, despite the fact it's being presented to you in real time, the bulk of the creative heavy lifting is done long before anyone ever walks in the theater. It's out of sync, right? You're putting together that command performance every night, that polished performance, and there's not a lot of variation there. There's presence, there's awareness, but you're not changing lines when you're hitting the stage. So when she said, "Yeah, I'm like, I need some downtime," I said, "Yeah, I get it." I said, "I totally get it. Totally get it." So she's not in. She didn't audition for this round, which is absolutely fine. Um, so I like it. I like it. I don't know how we got to that. How did we land there? I think this idea of I like that I'm coming to the end of the summer. I like that I said the coming not end of the summer, coming to the end of this sort of like theatrical season because I know I'm going to have downtime over the summer. But I'm already sort of imagining what the next like farmers when they're depending on the number of fields that they have, sometimes will let one go fallow. So it's that they'll leave it for a season, fertilize it, let it kind of grow over, blend it in, kind of let the soil recover. So I think summers in a lot of cases for actors is fallow season. Like you're kind of maybe doing your workshops, you're traveling, you're eating, you're connecting with friends because everything ramps back up again in September. So often theaters go if a theater is going to go dark, it's going to go dark over the summer. And you might have your workshops and your connections and your camps and all that kind of stuff. As far as the major productions, kicks back up in September. Some theaters run it all the way through the summer, and some theaters they only run the summer, like they're kind of doing vacation theater, so it pops up in the summer. There's lots of that around where I live. But I think for me, definitely that'll be where, at least for now, I'll say I'll go into kind of like down mode, just kind of like skill building mode, cleaning up mode, tightening, sharpening, checking the gear. I mean, I mentioned to you, I want to run a playwrights workshop over the summer, incubator, whatever the hell we end up calling it. Um, I think all of this circles back. Here's where I'll leave this. You're definitely I'll get take it back to you. You're in a fallow time right now. It's like you're just taking it in, just taking in the nutrients, taking in the nutrients, taking in the nutrients. Because like on the on ramp, just mentioning, like not much has popped out of your creativity in the last little while. And that's just a fact. No judgment. It's a fact, right? And I'll send you a little message every once in a while. Hey, I want to see this. Hey, what are you doing with this? And it's less of to be honest, it's less of a coaching moment as opposed to shit, man. I just want to see a video. Like I'll be sitting, I'm like, damn, I want to see a video. Who makes videos? Shids makes videos. Or even barbecue, mentioning the kind of barbecue. Yeah, dude does barbecue. I want to know some more about barbecue. It's like it's a very selfish kind of like I know the kind of art that I want to consume. And because I know you as a creative, I'm like, I want to see your creative stuff. I crave your creative stuff. And I do that to other people too. I'll do that to Tina Zeta, who, photography, they do some cool stuff there. I'll do that to Mel White, writer, puts out some interesting stuff. I'll do that to Roy and Lee as well. I'll kind of push up. I'm like, hey, when are you gonna put another thing out? I kind of need something. I need something right now. For him, it's music. Like he always puts out really cool music. So, and that's part of my fallow season, which can actually happen along the way, right? Like I can go through a week or so or 2 weeks, like middle of March, I'm like, you know what? I need something here, and I don't want to do that shitty thing of scrolling on Instagram. I want it to come from somebody that I know. Like I want it from somebody in my crew. So I'm gonna take a sip because that was a whole lot. It was a whole lot.
While you sip, let me say a few things.
Mhm.
First off, there might just be a first. I don't know. First off, even if you judge me, this is the best. So you lit me up around friendship. There are several people in my life that it's okay. Okay, so let me start with anybody can judge anybody. We usually do. We usually do, right? Whether we want to or not, we make judgments. I'm a firm believer that you can't tell people what to do, generally speaking. So people can judge me, but the best is when for me, when I have a group of friends, and there aren't many that I call friends, because we've gone episode what, I don't know, 32 and
I think
149.
it was 27. It was
Okay,
episode 27.
where friendship, that word is a loaded word for me.
Yep.
I am opening up though. I am finding lately
Can I say structured?
structure.
I would rather say structured because part of it, there's a fluency to relationships. There isn't that singularity of this is how, like, the nearest equivalent I would sort of put this right now is that we know that that neurodiversity exists. We know that everybody's brain works differently. Yet time and time again, we pick a common pathway, highway, procedure to kind of teach kids. What we're learning is that if you go slower and kind of figure out the structure, you do better. The inevitability, though, is that you move slower because there's no assumptions. You never get to just do a thing based on other people's templates. You're being mindful, you're being slow, you're being respectful. Building friendships works the exact same way. I don't know if 10 years ago, when we met, 10 years ago, 10 years, let's say 10 years ago, if I would have been able to say that this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. What I knew is that you were putting out interesting content. You were doing a thing that I was interested in learning. So it was mentorship. I was going to talk to you about doing podcasting. And there was an opportunity that was being presented with Stephen Hurley to go to the CEA, Canadian Educators Association, whatever the hell that was, to go to kind of like this big conversation about education. And I thought, wow, that's like a buffet that I can't walk away from. There's just too many bang, bang, bang interesting opportunities. And I was already moving in the direction of alternative education. At that time, I was working with the kids suspended and expelled it. So I was already in that zone of whatever I thought education was, this is very different. Very, very different. So I was open to like these opportunities. But I don't know at the time, even when I first saw you and I just kind of walked up and threw a hug on you, I don't even know if that was like, I had no clue like about your rules or the rules of engagement. I just kind of did based on my template. But as I spend more time, I'm like, you know what? This is cool because with the rules, they're not limiting, they're assurances. If we can operate in this way, we get better. If we can understand why we are this way, we get better. If we slowly grow together, then we learn more. It's a methodical way to build friendships. And there's still assumption in there, and both of us fall on assumption. I mean, look at our Reels shares at any possible moment. It's like you're just assuming that it's going to kind of like light the person up. We're not asking for approval, but there's something really cool about the approval process with relationships that I want to keep right at the forefront of this. Is that am I still tracking? Am I still on track with building a good relationship with you? So I like this. So I wouldn't say that it's loaded. From your perspective, loaded. From my perspective, structured. So I sort of have to decide, can I work within the structure? Because there's something of value there to me. And I would say yes. I would say absolutely. Time and time again, that question is answered with yes. The slow growth, but the strong growth comes hand in hand. So structured. And I like that. Despite my sort of ADHD kind of random interest, I've come to understand that I need to have that backbone of structure, either imposed by me or somebody else. Most times imposed by somebody else is better for me if I respect it, like if I can kind of sort of get it, because I can always dispense with my own. I mean, that's kind of what we do, us ADHDers. Like we're like, yeah, whatever, I'll get to it later. But when you have to kind of like follow that path, you gain discipline. And this is something that I've learned from you is that discipline is useful and valuable and kind of beautiful in building a relationship because it builds reliability and confidence. And that's, I think those are is that not what we want in relationships, right? Like you kind of want that. You want that not only to sort of feel like you have forward trajectory, but as the net when shit goes south, because then you can say it's a blip, or you can actually say to yourself, you know what? I didn't know this about this person. And the fact that I didn't is more of an assumption as an actual, like, blind spot. I could just assumed I could move forward, understand. Like, I like this. Structured, not loaded. That's what I say.
I loved all that. I don't really remember where I was going other than,
Well, friends.
oh, yeah,
Friends
but
and friendships.
I lost it. So that
No.
reminds me of the thing I sent you the other day on Instagram, which is gonna break my heart because, oh, because I was gonna say I send you so many things that I
Mhm,
might not be
mhm.
able to find it, but basically, I sent you this, post that I saw on Instagram that says, "Surround yourself with people who remind you of your worth when you've
Uh,
forgotten it yourself."
yeah.
So I've been working, I think, all my life, more recently in my adult years, to build friendships like that, to be that friend for other people. Knowing I can't do that to a million people at the same time means that I
Mhm.
can't have a million. I can't call myself a friend to a million people. Really, I
Friend to all, friend to none.
right. A friend to all is a friend to none. That came up the other day. I was talking to my wife about that, and I said something, and I said, Clough says a friend to all is a friend to none. And she was looking at me like, what do you mean? So then I started to dig into that. What does
We
that
have
mean?
receipts. We have receipts on that.
You know,
So whether you just decide to actually share the receipts with her, we know the people that operate that way.
right. And I know that I won't call them if I have a real problem. If I
Mhm,
if I have a real problem, I know I won't call them because I'm not that dumb to think that they'll step in and help. They
mhm,
might. Anyway, so if we go back to friendship and judgment, that's where I was going. With my circle of friends, the people I actually use that word with, I don't mind them judging me. In fact, sometimes I come into a situation, for example, so lately I've been sharing a lot with you on what's been happening in my life. And when I share with you, I'm sharing a perspective that I would argue is very narrow and very lit up. Like yesterday, I think I said something to you like something about burning the whole city down kind of thing because
mhm,
of my narrow focus and my narrow thinking. I put that out to you, and then usually you respond back. You don't always respond. You respond in your way, and whether it fits with my view at the time or not, I don't it doesn't cause me a problem.
mhm,
This is good in my opinion because it means that you're free to do as you wish and I'm free to take it how I want. Usually though, with my small group of friends, I'm open to how they respond, whether it's in line with my thinking at the moment or pushing back on my thinking or presenting a lighter side or a darker side depending on what I've presented to them.
mhm.
I'm open to all of that with my friends. It's with other people where I'm like, F them, and I just walk away. I don't need to hear their nonsense. I'm not interested in it. And there's a lot of that. There's a lot of no, I call it noise, where you present your situation to somebody and you just get noise. And it's like, I really am tired of the noise. I would rather invest my time in my friends.
Mhm,
And so I've been sitting with this kind of thinking now since the end of February. And now I'm tired. I'm emotionally dis, disengaged, if you will, in a way. I'm tired. Like I am so looking forward to the end of the school year now, just to finish this year. Whether
tired broadly, or just tired of this?
I'm
And you don't have to address that right now. I'll bring that back, but I think that's a one suggests. I'll just leave it at that. Tired in general, or just tired of this? Like, how close to the thing are you?
since the end of February, it
Yeah.
seems to me like I am living in this particular bubble,
Hmm.
and I'm just tired of what's happening in that space. So
Mm.
then I think, okay, how do I get out of that space? So one of the things is this podcast. This
Hmm.
podcast is a way for me to get out of that space.
Absolutely.
Um, Me leaning on um, a caveman, a caveman activity. I call it caveman activity because I learned about it in university. Like it came, we gave it words in university. We attached meaning to it, where you set something up in your life and you look forward to that thing. Is very simple. Like Wednesday, my son's having his end of year hockey party.
Hmm.
So in my mind, Wednesday night, excuse me, struggling here. Wednesday night is something I'm looking forward to, just like Sunday morning with this podcast. I've been
Hmm.
looking forward to. So I'm building those things in to get me out of that space. And I don't have, that's the control I have. I don't have control in the space. So I told you the other day, I'm now in a place where I look forward to Fridays in a way. All of a sudden I don't, because certain things happen on Fridays that I have no control over. But I look forward to my weekends in a way that, in a low hanging fruit way. And I don't like that, because for the longest time, it didn't matter if it was Friday or Monday. I was ready to rock and really happy to do so. I'm
Hmm.
not like that these days. These days, like, can we just get to the weekend? Can we just shut it
Mm.
down so
Yeah,
that,
you sent me a message about that. That
yeah,
the sudden noticing that Friday's really important. And our last stop on that, I think, was me pushing forward this whole protect the weekend idea, that you're not it, which is, it sounds the same, but it's not. It's the idea, like, how are you including weekend thinking every single day in some way? So you're not just waiting for that, you know, launch into the weekend,
and
where
as
you're
you know,
noticing now you're now craving the launch. You need to see that specific break from the week.
for years, I've been able to get into the mode of every day could feel like Friday, and I still
Mm.
believe that. I still
Mhm.
believe that. But this is a great opportunity and awakening for me,
Mm.
that at any moment one can be thrown back into, is it Friday yet? And oh my God, here comes Monday.
Yeah.
And I want to say that I believe so far, I still got a couple months to go to get through this school year, but I believe so far that my compassion has has been given a shot of steroids. I've been much more compassionate. Well, ask the people around me, I don't know what they'll say, but when I'm dealing with work situations, for example, families and students, teachers, and you know, other players, I feel as though I've been much more open to their stories and much more compassionate, which I didn't think there was room for that, because I thought I've been doing a pretty good job of that since I started my role as a re-engagement teacher.
Mhm.
And now I just feel like I've been given a shot, like I'm taking steroids for it, and there it's growing immensely, and it's growing because of my pain. And so in one sentence I can tell you, I was talking to somebody the other day and they said to me, this is what they said to me, which is hilarious, the two opposites of the spectrum. They said something like the teacher postings are coming, and if they don't get something in the first posting, then they'll just probably be at home depressed, waiting to be told where they're going. And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry." I said, "Well, you'll be at home depressed. If I'm in the same situation, like I said to you, I'll be out burning the city down." Like the two extremes. One person's going to be in the home, kind of just off and away in the dark, and I'm going to be lighting the place up. So we're both dealing with the same issue in a different way. That, and then that made us laugh, because and I'm like, thank God that we can find humor here and we can kind of play with this. So to say all that, yeah, right now I'm in the, is it Friday yet? And even now I'm like, geez, I don't want Fridays because that's when I get a phone call that kind of changes my world once again on Friday. So it's like
Mhm.
even Friday is not a safe day for me anymore. So it's like, can we get to Saturday morning? Can I get to Saturday morning? And then how do I deal with the weekends? And then when Sunday night comes, how can I milk that for as much as it's worth before Monday comes and I have to roll into the unknown? And yeah, we could get deep into I'm the one that chooses how to think and how to feel, but I've also arrived in a space where I'm learning more that my mind, everything I've practiced on how to live a open and good life, not everything flows from me wanting that. So
Mhm.
my body I've noticed is telling me one thing and is combating with my mind. Like there are competing factors that I don't seem to be able to control, and it's like, wow, my body's saying one thing, my mind is saying another thing, the people around me are saying something, and then at the end of the day it's like, what do I do with all this information? How do I process this? And how do I guess, ensure that I can function daily in a way that's effective in a number of different realms? So it's like, it's I hope to look back on this time as really good learning. So I'm kind of in the space where I'm still kind of paying attention, trying to uh, have a bird's eye view while being in the situation, which is that's also hard, and it causes issue. I'm trying because I know from experience that these garbage situations usually lead me to a better place. I have no data to prove it. I have anecdotal evidence and I have just my life experience, but knowing
We
this
have
about
we have
my
a whole
life,
lot of affirmations from YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. These are the easily this particular moment is the seed for those hyper simplified, digestible, listicle things that people share out on Instagram, whatever, about living a better life, being more mindful, managing your stress. You're in the middle of the war right now of that. And, it's a funny thing how asynchronous it is to your actual needs. So you've spent years consuming some of these wellness affirmations. And now you're in the middle of saying, okay, so what is it from this that are actually tools that I can use? I think and maybe this is the learning. It's not. It can be the learning of what do I need to trim from that toolkit because not all of it's useful.
and this is perfect because I was listening to a Dr. Huberman podcast the other day, and he was talking to a former military person, and they're talking about physical and mental life challenges, and it was awesome because the idea of growth mindset came up, and
Mm,
not only the idea of growth mindset, but the idea that you and I have toyed with many times on this podcast, that there are layers to this. Not just because you think you haven't gotten somewhere yet doesn't mean that you're going to be motivated and interested in going in that direction, regardless of whether your mindset is shifted or not. They were talking about basically, the guest was talking about basically growth mindset, but in the 80s and the 90s, before anybody had a name for it. And it was funny because Dr. Huberman's like, holy cow, you're literally talking about growth mindset without knowing it. And the guy's like, well, yeah, because it was one of those situations where you just had to dig deep and move because you wanted to do this or you wanted something to happen. So you willed yourself to move in that direction. And then Dr. Huberman talks about, yeah, and as we know, even though we know these things, there are still times where people just it doesn't work for them. They don't adopt it. And I was like, ding, 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 that's me right now. I've done so many things in my life where, and I continue to try to lean on, okay, I don't know this, but I can get there. I can get to a finish line. But then there are some things where it's like, I don't care where the finish line is. I'm not interested in this for a number of different reasons. So it's funny because that's a reminder to me not to be spouting to somebody sitting in front of me who has no interest in a particular thing but may have an interest in something else, where growth mindset will be applied in that something else, and they'll push through because of a number of different factors than what's in front of us. So it's like if I'm meeting with a kid or a parent and I'm spouting growth mindset, they might look at me like, you're crazy, dude. Like, do you not see that there's nothing about this situation that motivates me? And you talking about that idea isn't going to change anything. And I'm like, yeah, I totally get that because I'm kind of living that right now. Right now, it appears as though with certain things, I don't have an interest in engaging. So you can do whatever you want with me and you can try to remind me about that mindset. And I'm like, that's good. I don't choose to apply it here, which I think is so fascinating that I just think it's fascinating. You're not going to get someone to operate like a robot every single time. Sometimes it works, and sometimes people just comply, but sometimes people don't comply. And it's not because they're being difficult, it's because there's more to it than that. There's so many things that have happened or could happen where they're just like, I'm not complying. This isn't happening. I'm not doing this. And it's not solely on being difficult, right? It's not like they're standing in front of you and they're like, I'm going to be difficult. That's my whole purpose here right now. No, there's more to it than there can be more to it than that. I thought it was fascinating. I'm looking for any evidence to affirm how I'm living right now. Is this how abnormal am I? How normal am I? Sometimes that's good to get. Sometimes I just don't care. And I think I'm getting to the point when I tell you I'm tired of living in this bubble. I'm starting to get the I'm just going to do what I do and then people can respond however they respond. Like there's nothing you can there's nothing you can do inside this bubble anymore, I think, that you've already done that I just can't I won't process it anymore. I'm beyond that. And it doesn't matter what's come before. It doesn't matter what comes after. It's a point in my life that I need to get through. And I want to get through it without that feeling of shame. I don't think I should feel shame. I've done nothing wrong. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah. So we take this back to judgment and friendship. And it's like, I'm okay with my friends judging me because they're in my space. You've gotten the green check mark to be in my space. So I honor my friends by allowing them to be who they are and to say what they need to say. But other people, nah, I'm not interested in listening to other people. They can say what they want. It could make perfect sense, and I'm not open to it. Sorry. Sorry, not
Yeah,
sorry.
and I think it's also good. I think it's okay to tell people that they're not helpful. I mean, we're in a culture of in general, the overshare and the ever share. Like it's just always there. It's always there, right? You don't have to look too far. Every single person in your feed has probably, not well, maybe not every person, but there's a high instance of individuals that just post up stuff that's their own stream of consciousness versus wellness. Like you really don't have to work that hard to find another flavor. But all those different flavors aren't useful unless you're actually applying something to your current context. Like it can be too much. So I think maybe that idea of telling someone your efforts are not helpful. Not that I don't like you, not that you're not a friend. Just saying, it's not helpful. And to declare that it can be really useful information for the person that's trying to help you through that. And they don't necessarily have to back off, but they can take it as a cue of like, oh, okay, so what I thought I was doing was useful, but obviously I'm being told like no, like so I can choose to just back off, but they actually didn't even tell me to back off. They kind of, maybe they told me just do better or do differently. Right? You don't have to take it as an indicator that you're actually harming or hurting. It's just like this particular thing, thank you, but this particular that what you just said is not useful to me. That thing that you shared with me on Instagram is not useful to me. That article that you emailed, that's not useful to me. Um, and you just take that as a point in time, not an overall declaration that the actual individual is useful to you or not. It's just that thing that you shared is not useful. I don't think we're entirely comfortable with that kind of like dynamic in all of our relationships. I know it's taken me a long time to even accept that that's a possibility, that someone giving me advice and pushback actually means that they still like me and that they're in it to try, like their efforts mean that they want to be in a relationship. It doesn't, and me telling them I don't want their efforts doesn't mean that they're going to leave the relationship. Like the abandonment. That's a big thought for my little brain sometimes. That feedback is okay. And even though feedback is okay, also me saying I don't want the feedback is okay. Like there's the two sides to that, right? So
I was just about to say that sometimes you don't I don't want to hear your feedback. Not you, just whoever. I'm like, I'm not interested. You can, I guess you're free to say it. Um, but I'm also free to turn off my ears and not listen to it. That's just kind of, I'm okay with that too at this point. And then sometimes it's funny, people provide the feedback and I have no, I give that person no credence. It doesn't matter who they are, what their title is. You don't mean anything to me. So say what you need to say and guess we'll just move on. Um, and that can work to my detriment too, right? Like somebody might be like, hey, that person's advising you, or that person is explaining. And I'm like, that's nice. They have no value to me. I don't care what their position is or I don't care. Plus, it's more dangerous when you're already like emotionally tired of a certain topic or situation. That person's harping on it. It's like, I'm just not going to listen to you. And and for someone whose job is to listen, that says a lot about where I'm at in my process. I guess I'm just open to being more human and more accepting of myself. And that's tough because when you spend years not accepting who you are for because society deems you not worthy or whatever the case is, that when you figure it out, that can be dangerous to people who don't want you to know that. This is dangerous. And I meet people like what I'm kind of learning about myself. I meet people who are already there or who appear to be, and I
mhm,
don't see them as a threat. I just see them as okay, this person is in a space which works for them. So then I think, okay, so how can I, if I'm going to have a positive, if I would like to try to have a positive influence, how do I enter into their space? How do I how do I demonstrate that I'm worthy of being in their space? And then that automatically sets off what I call the time alarm, that this can't happen in an hour. This is going to take many hours.
mhm,
This is going to take many days. And then other people don't want to hear that, right? They're like, what do you mean this is going to take a long time? Well, I figured out the secret sauce. I need to build something called a relationship, a trusting one. That takes time. But everybody wants their fast food now. They don't want to wait for that low and slow cook, right? The low and slow at the end, I can almost guarantee you what you get's going to be friggin' awesome. They're like, we don't have time for that. We need the fast food now. Well, you're not getting it. You're gonna have to find someone else to cook you that stuff. I'm not. That's
mhm.
not what I do. And there, then they'd be like, "Well, you're being difficult." No, I'm not being difficult. I'm telling you, I found the secret, but the secret takes time, and it's time that could have been well spent years ago. But you've all chosen that you didn't have time then. You don't have time now. So when will you have time? The answer is never. From a system, it's like a system perspective. The answer is no. There's no time. But if you would have had time 3 years ago, you wouldn't be here now. So you could give it time now. Well, we don't have time. Okay. We don't have time. And, I'm talking about it like I've got all the time in the world. Well, I did. Now I don't.
Mhm.
But to try to honor the people in front of me. So how can I look for time even though it doesn't exist? The same person I had this conversation with about depression and burning down the city. And I really hope nobody burns the city down and then somebody hears this podcast, comes chasing me. But I'll
Mhm.
be with my
Mhm.
family, so I'm gonna have witnesses that I didn't go anywhere. I have no accelerant on my fingers, so we're good. But I was talking to this other person, and we were talking about where we might end up next year. And I said, wherever I end up, I really hope that part of my process in finding a new job is I'm interested in selling the skills and knowledge that I currently have in my job now. Because somebody's like, oh, you just wasted 3 years of your life. I didn't waste anything. I'm hoping that wherever I end up, if it's a place where I have like a say in going to, because that's a whole other, if I can find myself a job, part of me finding that job will involve selling what I currently have honed and built over 3 years. And I would love to offer that, whatever you want to call that, skill set, understanding, interest. I would love to have the new people bringing me in be accepting of that. So, how
Mhm.
can I use that? How can I consult or advise or work with um, people that you see going down a road of disengagement? What can I do to help build and help you with that? Which is very niche, but I just think what a beautiful thing it would be, if I'm in one place in the school, but I also have 3 or 4 kids that don't belong to my class that might check in with me daily and know that my space is an open space for them if they need
Mhm.
time and space
Yep.
because I've done the work, so I kind of understand and I'm more open to it at the time. How can I do that? I know there's a special education teacher, but I also know they have a job to do. Why can't why can't I use my skill set and my understanding and my interest to be a safe, caring adult space for the kid that is driving everybody nuts or doesn't want to be there but is there? So then we have to go back to, do you want them here or do you not want them here? If you
Episode 122.
if you want them here, I'd be happy to be part of that plan. Whether my administrator is open to that or understands that, that's a whole other thing,
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
But I'm hoping I can connect with someone who thinks that's a really good thing. So it was funny because it was like a moment of, well, what do you bring to the table? And I'm like, I am not gonna pretend that the last 3 years of my life are not worthy of anything. That is, nah, that's not cool. The system might feel that way, but I certainly don't. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna use that to my advantage and share that with people. I'll have to I have to reduce that to like a 1 minute pitch, right? But
Mhm.
you get where I'm going with it. It's like
Absolutely.
I hope somebody sees this, what I've done, as a bonus to their school environment.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, the great thing is that it's responsive not only to your needs, but also what you're seeing. Like you're sort of saying you're making a one-to-one connection between the things that you learned in order to learn how to do your job better. So You've now spent time in the field, and that experience, of course, for sure, it's, when the system thinks like, that's awesome, it brings compassion to the classroom. Sure, but if it's self-directed, could it be something else? Could it be something else? I like this. It leads me back to thinking about how, during the staffing season, it would be cool if there was a space where teachers could pitch a new job, like where there was funding to say, okay, you could be paid, there's money here. Pitch the job that you see there's a deep need, and you could actually build the structure of the job. You'd get 1 year to kind of like work on it, and then you would sort of submit and say, okay, here's my year 2 of this project, can I keep doing it? It'd be cool, just like we have like these IDC courses in high school where you can sort of say it's a blend, it's a mashup of math and English and art, and here's the list of expectations that I'm pulling from each of them, I'm creating a brand new course. um, like at our high school right now, we have I think it's a history versus Hollywood course. So it's a mashup between English and history, I believe. And so where they look at historical significance and context versus the actual media that was put out. And cool course. You get a little bit of both, right? So that's where you're at. You're at the mashup stage. No, mashup's bad. Mashup's bad because mashup, unless we're talking, it's got to be mashup with a synergistic element to it. It actually has to be, you're putting kind of like pieces together in a way that the whole is actually better than just getting those two things. So there's got to be a synergistic thing. And I think the synergistic thing is you not only are saying this is good for the kids, you now have perspective on the board, and you're saying, okay, but this would be great for our board to kind of have whatever it is you put into that spot. Like that's the perspective that you have. I like that.
Like, it's being intentional about
Mhm.
being a caring adult. Not that there
Yeah.
are here's the thing, every school, almost every student I've worked with can say that there's an adult in the school that they have a connection with. So that's not the issue. The issue is the intention, that we're missing intention. I want to roll into a school with the intention of building relationships with kids who are on the brink of not going to school. At this moment, that's how I feel, right? So how does it look in practice? If in practice it means I'm in the middle of teaching a group of grade 2s or 3s reading, and there's a knock at the door, and it's a grade 7 kid who's like, my teacher told me I should leave now and whatever. How do I build into the culture of my classroom? Come on in, have a seat over here, and I'm going to chat with you in a minute. I just need to finish up with my 3s, get them going. And how do we build that so it's like just kind of automatic? So yes, this might be a normal thing to happen in student success or spec ed, but I'm happy to also be one of those people if knowing kind of what it takes, right?
Mm.
And it can also be, how some teachers run clubs and stuff at lunch or recess.
Mhm.
Maybe one of the things I run is a safe space for these kids who don't want to be there or who normally aren't there, but there's somewhere for them to go at lunch, somewhere for them where they can shut down, or somewhere for them to feel safe because they don't like to be outside because of whatever reasons. And I'm not saying schools don't do that. What I'm saying is I would come with the intention of building something there because I've done this kind of work,
Mhm.
right? That's all I'm saying. So every school has, not every school, most schools offer a safe space for the kids that I've been working with for the last 3 years.
Every school has the opportunity.
Every
They do.
school has the opportunity,
Yeah.
100%. It's a matter of, can I offer an alternative educational space within the school day that won't drive teachers nuts, that'll keep kids there, and that will allow me to do whatever my duties are in that building at that time. This excites me. This is an opportunity and a challenge that I'm willing to flex growth mindset on. I'm willing to do that. I'm happy to try. There are other things where I'm not happy to try. Get away from me. I don't want to talk to you about whatever X is or Y is. I have no interest. And you might want me to comply, but it might be difficult because I'm not interested. So it's interesting. We'll see if anybody has, if that's on anybody's mind with all the stuff that's running through an administrator's mind trying
Mhm.
to manage and lead schools in today's situation, whatever you want to call it.
Hmm. Very cool and
Anything
very
else you want?
challenging.
Yeah. But as you know, you and I like to do stuff. Stuff pops in the head and we mull it over, we play with it, and then we run with what we want to run with.
Yeah, exactly. I like
It's
that.
really cool when you look forward to a challenge, because there are some challenges I don't want. People will be like, "Oh, it's a great challenge." Yeah, I'm not interested. Thanks. Flex your growth mindset. Not on this. I'm not spending my mind space and energy on this.
Yeah.
Why not? Because I'm not interested. I don't want to do it. No, I'm saying no. And that's hard, especially in certain situations. It's hard for the person to say no, and it's hard for the person who's hearing them say no, take it in. And then there's conflict. It's like, oh, great, here we go. Here we go.
Here we go.
Were you able to create some art today?
Yeah.
Is that, oh, it's the bubble?
Just a bubble.
What's inside of it, or is it just different colors?
Yeah, just a
Okay,
bubble.
gotcha.
I need to put, if I wanted to, I mean I could put some dark something almost like a dark indigo, because often when you see a bubble it has that iridescent sheen to it. So I was just trying to figure out how to do that iridescent sheen, and then you'll see actually darkness or whatever's the backdrop, right? So if you have it against, you know, grass, a bubble's going across, you'll see some weird kind of weird green in the background. If you have it against the sky, you'll have kind of blue. So there's a transparency that I couldn't quite hit, but hey, hey, no bigs. No bigs. It's art.
It is art, and you're the one that made it, so
My rules.
I guess so.
My rules are get the hell off my podcast.
Anything else, or are we good for today?
Yeah, we're good. We're good. I'm
I
gonna go
love it.
check in with the fam. I can hear the dog, because it hits the hard floor, whatever they're chewing on. And apparently the dog has figured out how to open up one of the gates in our house. So it's just slides. So they figured out how to paw to slide it. Karen said she found them upstairs, which means they figured out how to open the gate.
Imagine that you open your eyes and there she is, and you're
Yeah,
like,
right there.
"What the?" And then
Yeah.
you look around for the adult that may have brought the dog, and there's no adult. It's just
Well,
dog,
this is, dude,
right?
this moment brings me all the way back to when Jake was like, I don't know, 2 years old, two and a half, something like that. And I come upstairs and like I was upstairs, and then I go downstairs, I come back upstairs, and he's in the bathroom pretending to brush his teeth. And I say to Karen, I'm like, did you get Jake out of bed? She's like, no. Like, Maddie, did you, like, Maddie's teeny tiny. I'm like, did you get Jake out of his crib? Right out of his crib? No. Oh. So I pick him up. I'm like, hey, buddy, how's it going? I put him back in his crib, and I leave my phone just faced on record inside his room. And I close the door, and he cries, cries, cries. I don't know. I don't know if I ever told you this story. Cries, 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 and then it stops. And then we're do 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 do. And then he comes walking out the door of his bedroom. I'm like, Bud, how's it going? He's like, hey, and he goes back into the bathroom. He goes back to pretend to brush his teeth. So I go and I look at the footage, and you can see, me walking away from him when he's in his crib. He stands up, he's crying, and then this look on his face that he realizes no one's coming to get him. And the guy just climbs up, doop, 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 lifts him out of the crib, gets his leg over, doop, 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 shimmies down the things, and walks over to the door. I'm like, well, there's an upgrade. Can't use the crib anymore. Guess it's time to get him a bed. So my dog just leveled up. Somehow figured out how to open the gate. And it doesn't matter. I don't have to see how the dog does it. If it's happened, it's a fact. So now we have to adjust. I wasn't about to put a lid on the crib to keep Jake in there, right? Like, okay, we'll get him a bed. But we definitely have to figure out a new latching system for this gate, because we don't want the previous owners. We still have these spots like where put the cat, like the cat is disgusting. The cat is like, sometimes the house is its toilet. And so we're constantly having to like clean carpets and stuff like that. But the dog will go up and then piss on the same spot. And like, okay, now I got to clean the carpet again. So main floor is all like tile and hardwood. So it's like, have at it, wipe it up, sweep it up, whatever. But upstairs it's carpet. So it's like, I don't want to have to be cleaning the carpet all the time. And I just don't trust the dog yet. I don't. Not enough to think that they'll be up there on their own and make good decisions. So we'll see. I'll go up and I'll figure it out. I'll put some sort of a latch on it, carabiner and a zip tie, something. I'll figure it out.
You will figure it out, and then I hope that she figures it out too.
Yeah, the dad details. I'll figure out some dad details to fix it.
Okay,
man.
This was season 7, episode 25, number 290 of the Decoded Podcast. 290, baby.
Have a good one, dude.
You too. We'll talk soon.
Peace.
Peace.